have recently discovered this pattern in my life. You may have the same kind of pattern. I seem to run out of stuff at the worst possible time. Like, I never run out of gas unless I'm running late, right? I never run out of Dr. Pepper unless I need another drink, which is pretty much all the time. So anytime I run out of Dr. Pepper is the worst time I could run out of Dr. Pepper. And I remember when I was a parent, I'm still a parent, but I had little kids, and you have those moments where you're getting everybody ready and you're going somewhere, and it's really important that it go well, right? You know what I'm talking about? And it's important that the kids behave. And I never run out of patience when we're hanging around the backyard or playing in the pool or doing whatever, watching our favorite shows. But it seems like when it was one of those important moments where it was important that the kids behave and it was important that it go well, that I lost my patience because they're fighting in the back seat. Like, I always ran out of patience at the time I needed it most. And running out of those kinds of things, Dr. Pepper and patience and gas, is frustrating. But there's some heavier ways we run out of things that are not just frustrating, they can actually kind of be life-altering. And I know this is kind of a heavy way to start, but this is life, right? And sometimes life is incredibly heavy. And there are those moments and there are those times where you run out of money, and you start to feel the pressure of that. There are times where you run out of options, which can feel even worse than running out of money, where you feel like, I don't have a choice here. I would really like to do something different. I would like a different kind of relationship. I would like a different kind of set of circumstances, but I can't. I am boxed in. And we really don't like running out of hope, which sounds kind of, Hallmark movie-ish, and, well, we all have hope. Hold on to hope. We have songs about hope. We have hope, hope, hope. But when you're in a place in your life where you have very little optimism, positive thoughts, whatever you want to call it, about what's coming next, it is easy to start feeling that things are getting very heavy all of a sudden. And if you have a Bible, we're going to be in 2 Kings chapter 4, and you can go ahead and turn there now. We're going to meet a woman who hit a heavy time in life. She lost her husband, which for most of us, losing a spouse would be devastating. I mean, that by itself just feels enormous. If we're married, or even if you're in a close relationship with somebody, the idea of losing them just feels overwhelming. But not only she lost her spouse, now her 2 sons are at risk of being taken from her. And her income is gone, her savings are gone, and she is in every way running out. It's a pretty desperate moment. And it's incredible because God meets her in that moment. And that's what we're going to look at. But before we look at her story, what we see throughout the Bible, this happens over and over and over. Throughout the Bible, when people reach the end of their resources, they often discover that God is their true resource. That when they've run out of options and they've run out of hope and they've run out of money or they've even run out of food to eat, they find that even though they have little or nothing, that God is actually their true resource. Jesus talked about this. It was so important to him, and we'll look at that as well. And one of the things that comes out of this is when you encounter God, when you're in one of those heavy moments, regardless if it looks that way from the outside or not, and regardless if anybody else would agree with you or not, when you meet God in one of those moments, it very literally changes your life. And I know that for most of you, you're here today, and we've talked about this before, because you want to encounter God. You're here today because you want your life to change or to continue to change. We don't go to church. We don't get connected with church. We don't get involved with other people. We don't carve out time on a Sunday and all those other things just to have something to do, just because we're supposed to, just because it's habit. There's something deeper there. And today, we're going to look at how God meets us in that moment. So 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 1. said, the wife of a man from the company of the prophets cried out to Elisha, your servant, my husband, is dead. And it's pretty straightforward. Not a lot to interpret there. You know that he revered the Lord, but now his creditor, he was in debt, is coming to take my 2 boys as his slaves. It doesn't get much more desperate than that. And Elisha replied to her, how can I help you? Tell me, what do you have in your house? Your servant has nothing there at all, she said, except a small jar of olive oil. Just stop there for a second. I know sometimes when we read Bible stories out of the Bible, it's not that we don't believe them or it's not that we don't think they're real, but sometimes they feel so far removed that it's kind of hard to put ourselves in that situation. But this one's not, is it? This is we got the bill for the car and it costs more than we have to pay to get it fixed. And if we don't have the car, we can't go to work and we can't take the kids to school. And what are we going to do? Except a little heavier. This is we both lost our jobs and we haven't paid rent for a couple of months and it's due next week and we don't have anything. And they said if we miss the payment again, we're out. We understand that kind of heaviness. And really what it is, if you'll allow me to use this word, it is a feeling of powerlessness. Like, I don't have options. I've tried all the things I know to try. I've done all the things I know to do. And regardless if this has to do with money or relationships or any other aspect of life, I don't like feeling powerless. There's a sense of fear that comes with it. There's a sense of shame that comes with it. And unfortunately, with that shame, a lot of times we're very hesitant to tell anybody else. Yeah, I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm not going to admit to this. I'm going to kind of ignore it. I'm going to pretend that it's not true. But the very first thing this woman did, which I think was so incredibly wise and is actually so helpful for us, she went to God's people and she said, I got a problem. I'm powerless. I don't know how to fix it, and I need some help. You see, God forever has said that his people, and by the way, that's you and me, that's people that follow Jesus together, right? That is the church. We've talked about this many, many times. The church is not a building. The church is not an organization or institution. It's you and me following Jesus together. And God has said that his people, his church, should take special care of people that find themselves in a position of being powerless. That it's a call and a commission that we have. And it's easy to think, well, that's nice, right? I mean, and if anybody out there in the world and society and all that should care about people that are powerless and struggling, I mean, it should be the church, right? That's who should do that. That's a nice thing. It's a good thing. But it's so much more than that. It's so much more than that. And I can't speak for every church in your background and every church you've ever been a part of or connected to. I don't know all your stories, and you probably have some great stories, and you probably have some not so great stories. But I can speak for this church. For this church, here's how this works. And I talk about this probably about once a month, but it is so important, and I don't want you to miss it. See, every week when we gather together as a church, we receive an offering, okay? And what that looks like for most people is either cash or checks or electronically. They're giving money to the church. But you're not giving money to the church. What you're actually doing is you are giving an offering to God. That out of gratitude, that out of thankfulness, that out of awe of who he is and what he's done, that I want to give back to him and I want to show my dependence on him because I value who he is and I am willing to give things that we value up because I want to show that devotion and faithfulness to him. You are giving an offering as worship. That's why it's part of our worship service. But here's the really cool thing. When you do that, it allows us as a church to then turn around and be a help to the powerless. Because pretty much every month, whether it's people in this church community, people that are sitting shoulder to shoulder with you right now, or people that live out in our community, our neighbors and our friends and people that we rub shoulders with and work with, we're helping somebody pay rent. We're helping somebody cover their utilities. We're helping somebody get the prescription that they couldn't afford. We're helping somebody get diapers for kids that it just feels like they're being overwhelmed with. And that's because of your generosity. This is who we are. This is what we do. As God's people, this is who we are and what we do. And that's why her instincts were so sharp. And I would challenge you, if you're in that moment of running out, and your instinct is to hide it, don't do that. Take it to God's people. That's one of the reasons that they're here. And so she does this. And again, it's easy. Look at this and think, well, that's a unique story. It's kind of an interesting moment, and we're going to catch up, I promise. We'll tell the whole story. But Jesus actually talked about this. And you don't have to turn there if you don't want to, but in Luke 4, as Jesus is getting ready to start his entire ministry, before he launches the whole thing, I mean, everybody on the planet, it seems like, has heard of Jesus at this point. So this seems pretty important. When he was getting ready, his very first step, his very first public thing that he said about who he was and what he was going to do, he kind of shaped the whole thing. And it would be easy to think that, well, maybe he's going to announce that the king has come, or that God is now here, or that the world order is changing, or that, who knows, but he might announce something huge. In Luke 4:18, Jesus says this to start his ministry. The Spirit of the Lord is on me because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, and to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. That's how Jesus started. In other words, there's good news. If you're running out, there's good news. And there's actually two kinds of running out, isn't there? There's the physical material running out. Don't have enough money, don't have enough food, don't have clothes to wear, can't pay the bills. There's that kind of running out. And Jesus says there's good news for that. But there's also another kind of running out, isn't there? There's a spiritual sense of running out. And both of those get addressed. Look with me back in 2 Kings, this time, verse 3. Remember, she just said, all I have is a small jar of olive oil. Verse 3, Elisha says, go around, ask all your neighbors for empty jars. Don't ask for just a few. In other words, go get all the Tupperware you can get. Then go inside and shut the door behind you and your sons, and pour oil into all the jars, and as each is filled, put it to the side. So she left him and shut the door behind her and her sons, and they brought the jars to her, and she kept pouring. When all the jars were full, she said to her son, bring me another one. But he replied, there's not a jar left. The oil has stopped flowing. Now, we'll get into all the particulars here for just a moment. But she started off with a little jar of oil. She went to her friends. She involved other people. She went out there. She did what God said to do. He said, trust me with the little that you have. Go to your neighbors. And then once you've gone to your neighbors, start pouring. And each time she just takes the step. And what she ends up finding out is God met her need. That there is good news. That even as she was in her most desperate, we're going to lose the house, they're taking away my kids, my husband is gone moment, there's good news. God provides for your needs. In the middle of all of that, there's good news. God will provide for your needs. But like I said, there's two different kinds. There's two different kinds because the truth of the matter is, many of us have never faced that level of desperation, that kind of material poverty. Some of you have, and you can remember it very clearly. But most of us, we might have gotten close. We might have had some tough months. We might have had to borrow some money we didn't want to borrow. But most of us have never been that desperate. And again, it would be easy to look at the story and go, oh, wow, man, that's hard. If you're really, run out like that would be tough. But like I said, there's two kinds of poverty. Jesus talks about the other one in Matthew 5:3. He said, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. That there is a spiritual poverty that is just as real and just as meaningful and just as dangerous as a physical poverty. And you go, what does he mean then? What is he talking about? Like, what could that look like? Because you hear that and you kind of think spiritual poverty. Okay, is that like where, some people are kind of nice and some people are kind of mean, and some people you're like, they're probably going to heaven and they're probably not. Is that what we mean? We're talking about spiritual poverty. Like there's a few people that, they're kind of rough and hard to be around and I don't know about them. I don't know about their future. No. Spiritual poverty is like any other kind of poverty. It means I owe something I can't pay. Like there's no way I can make up for it. There's no way I can pay back the debt. And in the Bible, sin is always talked about in financial terms. It's talked about as a debt that has to be paid. That somehow, some way, that has to be made up for. And again, it's easy to think, well, I know some people that, they got to make up for some stuff, right? Like, my ex and, they got to make up for some stuff because they're terrible, right? But Jesus isn't talking about other people's spiritual poverty. He's talking about yours. He's talking about yours. And while I'm not here to beat you up, I am here to tell you that the times you've been inconsiderate towards your spouse, the times that you've been angry and harsh with your kids, the times where you've taken advantage of opportunities at work that were kind of a little bit gray, the times where you were disrespectful to your parents because you were just so tired of them and the way they were treating you and the way that the life was going at home, the times when you chose you over everybody else has created a spiritual poverty that has to be made up. And Jesus is saying, you're actually blessed if you're spiritually poor. How could that be? How could it be that I'm blessed if I owe so much to God that I can never make up for it? How could that be a state of blessing? He says, because there's good news. There's good news. God provides for your forgiveness. Jesus himself, if you've never heard this, if you've never understood this, this is what the whole thing is about. His death, burial, and resurrection was to provide for your forgiveness, to pay back the debt that you could not pay, to take you from being in a place of spiritual poverty to belonging to the kingdom of God. You see, this miracle of the oil was deeper than just the fact that somebody had run out and that somebody was struggling. That was true, but it was deeper than that. And this woman, she probably unconsciously, she sets an incredible pattern for us. Did you see what she does? In the story, what she does. She literally simply takes the next step in front of her. The first step, I am struggling, I am stuck, I am running out. I went to God's people and I said, I need help. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go from here. Things are getting bad. I need help. And after she came to God's people, God, through Elisha, told her, here's the next thing I want you to do. I want you to go borrow jars from your neighbor. And I thought about that. Why? Why that way? I think it was for her benefit. She needed to know that she was not alone. She needed to know that other people were invested in what was happening in her life. And she went to her neighbors. In much the same way, God tells us, don't hide, don't pull back, don't isolate, don't cut yourself off from everybody, whether it's spiritual poverty or material poverty. Don't cut yourself off. And so she did. She went and she humbly knocked on every neighbor's, can I borrow some jars? How many jars do you have? Can me and my boys borrow them? That was not a fun day, but she got as many as she could because that's what God told her to do. And then she goes back, she says, okay, I got all the jars. What do I do now? Take that little bit of oil. Little jar, and just start pouring it out. Risky, this is all I got. I have very little. Her little was not little to God. And in the midst of this, her simply taking the next step, God does a miracle. And it's what we've been talking about over and over and over. We've looked at it from several different vantage points over the last several weeks, but it's this idea of encountering God. When I encounter God, something happens. And it's not because of me. And it's not because of what I bring. It's him. It's him every time. And when I gather with my family to worship him, I have an opportunity to encounter him. And when I encounter him, something happens. And in this woman's case, and in your case, encountering God leads you to count on God. She didn't have any other choice. She was running out. And you could look at it like, well, what else did she have to lose? She was in such terrible shape. Her poverty was so overwhelming. Can I be honest with you? If you're not a follower of Jesus, you're in the same terrible shape. Your spiritual poverty is overwhelming you. What do you have to lose? Why would you not take the next step that God puts in front of you? Well, what happens? Look at verse 7. She went and told the man of God. See, and right there already, she's already doing better than me. You know what I would have done? Hey, boys, call up people that sell this stuff. Let's see if we can't make some money off of this. No, she's just taking the next step. She went and told the man of God, and he said, go sell the oil, pay your debts, and you and your sons can live on what's left. She ended up doing exactly what I would have done. She was very persistent to say, God, what is my next step? What do you want me to do next? not what do I think is best, not what I can manipulate, not the circumstances I can try to create, not the way I can hustle and maybe figure it out and fix it myself. None of those things. God, what do you have for me to do next? It seems like I should go sell this stuff. But what do you want me to do next, God? What do you think she talked about with her boys? I mean, we're going to play a little imagination game. Once this happened, like, how many times do you think she told that story to her boys over the rest of their lifetime? My guess is they heard it a lot. What do you think her response was when she heard word months, years, maybe later, that one of her neighbors was struggling, that they were up against it? How do you think she responded? What do you think she did the next time she hit a hard spot? What do you think went through her mind? What was kind of her knee jerk the next time things got tight? The next time it felt like she was running out of something? How do you think she responded? See, I have a feeling that encounter with God, where she took the very little that she had that really could not do anything, and God took it and did much, it changed the rest of her life. And it's no different whether it is material poverty or spiritual poverty. But I do know this. Coming face to face with poverty is uncomfortable. We don't like it. I mean, there's a few people that seem to really understand it and grasp it and can dive in. But for most of us, it's pretty uncomfortable. We're not used to it. We're not sure what to do. We're not sure how to go forward. And it's not that we don't want to help, and it's not that we think we're necessarily better than them. We just, I don't know what to do. I'm not sure here. We're uncomfortable. And that's a good thing. So what I want to do for the next few minutes is make you a little more uncomfortable. How about that? What do you do when you are faced with poverty? The very first thing you do is you make a decision to move with humility. To move with humility. Because it doesn't really matter if you are the woman, if you are Elisha, if you are the neighbors with the jars, if you are the one buying the oil. It doesn't really matter who you are in the story. You move with humility. Because sometimes you're the one who's dealing with poverty, your own poverty. And sometimes you are the one who is living out of a surplus. But it's key that you move with humility, and here's the trap that I think so many of us fall into. And the reason I know this is because I've said it, and I've heard many of you say it. When you get into that moment where there's a real need that's staring you in the face, so many of you are like, I would much rather help than be helped. Right? Oh, I'm much more comfortable giving. I'm much more comfortable helping out. I'm much more comfortable showing up for somebody else rather than people showing up for me, rather than people giving to me. And I know there's a little bit of that kind of feels right. You know, like, well, I want to be self-sufficient, and I want to take care of myself, and I don't want to have to depend on other people. And I understand that. But come on, what's really underneath that? It's pride. Isn't it pride that says, I can't be in a position where I'm depending on someone else? I mean, I don't want to be that. Well, you know, maybe if it's my parents, you know, maybe that'd be okay. Or maybe if it was my brother or sister or something. But you know, strangers, like, or people that aren't part of my family, like, I don't want to ever be in a position where I'm depending on them. That's not moving with humility. And the reason I know that is because I've seen my pride jump up and catch me many times. It's about 18 years ago. I went on a mission trip with our church to Haiti. You still get in, you could still serve there at this time. And any of you that have been to Haiti, or if you've been to the Caribbean, you know, it's a warm place, it's a humid place, and when it's set up for the tourists, it's nice. When it's not, it's a little tougher. Haiti is not set up for tourists. Haiti is one of the poorest countries in the world, maybe still number one, I don't know. But we went to Haiti, and we got there, and I'll try to tell a long story in a short amount of time. But one of the things I like to do when I go on mission trips is I like to let everybody else figure out what they want to do and where they want to go and how they want to help and how they want to serve, and just take whatever's left. And it's not because I'm a great person or anything like that. I've just found that I meet God in those moments much more often than I do when I run ahead and try to, I want to do this, I want to have that, and I want to go here. It just seems like God shows up more for me when I just allow him to be in control of it. So I had laid back, and all of our team had gotten paired up with people, some local folks and some just on our team and some from other teams, and they were doing projects all over the place. And so if you can get in your mind, it's like we got this big group together, and people are getting in groups of 4 and 5 and 6, and this team's going to go over there, and this team's going to go over there, and they're going to do this, and they're going to do that. And pretty soon, it was just me, and I was like, uh-oh. This is nobody picked me at recess. Like, I don't want nobody wants me on their team, which I understand. But I was standing there, and I said, man, I'm willing to help. And he goes, oh, no, we got one more project. He goes, I'm just waiting. There's a guy that's going to meet you. I was, oh, okay, great. And in comes this guy. His name was Jean. And Jean was, he was probably about 17 or so, which is tough in Haiti. Everybody looks like they're somewhere between 15 and 30, and you don't really know. He was about 17, I'm guessing. And I'm not trying to be mean. This is just reality. He was thin, and he was pretty undernourished, and he looked as healthy as you could expect him to look, but he didn't look healthy, if you understand what I mean. And they said, we need you guys to help clean out this ditch over here. And I'm like, all right, whatever. If that's what you need, that's fine. And when they said ditch, I thought ditch. They meant huge irrigation canal, I'm like, okay. So we get over there, and I'm looking around, and I'm realizing pretty soon, as soon as I get there, I'm like, ooh, this is a huge job. This is much more than 2 people can do. And then I look at John, and I think, this is much more than Brett can do, because I don't think John's going to be much help. I mean, I'm fit, I'm healthy, I'm willing to work, and I'm looking at him, and I'm thinking, man, I don't know. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just like, this is going to be a hard day. This is going to be a hard day. And so they tell us what we need, and they give us some buckets and shovels and all this stuff, and we get started. We started around 9 in the morning. By lunchtime, Jean had outworked me, outsmiled me, outloved me, and outundone everything that I was there to do. I mean, he was just moving 1,000,000 miles an hour. He was outworking me. I'm drenched in sweat. He's got like one little drop on his top lip. I'm like, what is going on? I went to Haiti to help. I waited to get a project, and my project was I went and cleaned out a ditch because my pride got in the way. But you realize what I learned? I learned what joy looks like in suffering. All they got from me was moving some dirt. I got so much more from them. I understood what it looked like when you're going to bed hungry, when your family is threatened, when you don't have a future, and yet you live with joy. I had never seen that before, not like that. Jean taught me, Jean gave to me more that day than I ever gave to him, even though I was the one that showed up to help, and I was the one that showed up to work, and I was the one that showed up looking like I would have the ability to do the most good. That's why I say you've got to move with humility when you encounter poverty. It's not about what I can do and how I can fix it and what I can do for them. It's a humility that says, what is God doing in this moment? Second thing is you need to choose justice over charity. Like I said, I want to make you uncomfortable, so I hope I'm being effective. What do you mean justice over charity? What does that look like? First of all, charity is not bad. Don't get me wrong. Charity is not bad at all. Charity it kind of looks like and sounds like this. You're going along, living your life, you're doing your thing, and you notice something comes up, and you're like, oh, wow, that's terrible. I wish it wasn't that way. Maybe I should do something to help, which is great. And you do. You write a check, or you go and volunteer on a Saturday, and you go and you help with that need or that cause, and you come away from that experience, and you, frankly, you feel pretty good. Like, I'm glad I could help. I'm glad I could do something that made a difference. And let me don't get this twisted. There's nothing wrong with that. That is good. But justice is better. Justice is much better, actually. Justice is when you join God to reset what has been made wrong. You see, there's this mindset out there, and I don't know if you guys see this a lot, but I do, where there's all these NGOs and groups around there. We're gonna abolish poverty, and we're gonna provide clean drinking water to everybody on the planet, and we're gonna do all these things. And I get it, they're casting vision and they're trying to get people involved, but the reality is nobody is gonna solve poverty. We're not. We are always going to have poverty. So the idea that I'm gonna go and fix it, no, you're not. That some organization is gonna go and eradicate poverty everywhere, no, they're not. Jesus said, the poor will always be with you. And he wasn't saying it that they don't count. He was saying, this is always going to be an issue until I come back. So we're not going to solve it. So what do? We choose justice. Because a lot of times charity is motivated by what makes me feel bad and what makes me feel good. It makes me feel bad to see that. It makes me feel good to give some money to help with that. Justice, on the other hand, says, we want to bring God's kingdom to this place. We want to reset what has been done here that's wrong. And the reason justice is so much better is because charity lasts for about this long, doesn't it? It lasts if the commercial is compelling. It lasts for that afternoon when you went and helped out. And then the next day, it's gone. But justice has a way of enduring. Justice says we are not doing this for ourselves. We are partnering with God in what God is doing in the world to see his kingdom come. And the motivation is so much bigger than how I feel about it in the moment. And I know this is heady stuff, and I know there's a sense where you feel a little uncomfortable, and that's okay. That's actually good. Because as a church, you need to know we partner with several groups to bring justice. And we have over decades, not for a week or a month or a year, but over the long haul. And I'm not bragging, I'm just trying to illustrate what this looks like. I mean, we have partnered with Rio Vista, which is a group in South Phoenix that works with food, clothing, education, and job placement for over 20 years. We have partnered with New Life Pregnancy for over 15 years because New Life Pregnancy Center is meeting the needs of poor families right here in our community that can't afford diapers, that can't afford formula, that can't afford baby clothes, and for moms that are trying to decide, should I keep this baby or not? We want to see justice in those places, and charity can never get us there. We have partnered probably for about 10 years with one mission where we go and build homes in Mexico for people that are under-resourced in some of the poorest places of Mexico that have no place to live, that are living in cars and sheds and huts. We have partnered here in our community in so many different ways and so many different service projects. We have partnered with a group in Nepal where we're putting on camps for kids so that we can tell them about Jesus because we cannot fix their material poverty, but we can show them their spiritual poverty has an answer and they can find joy even in suffering. And I don't tell you that so that you'll be impressed by our church. I tell you that to give you a glimpse of what it looks like to choose the kingdom over charity, to choose justice over charity. Jesus was the master at this. There was no one better than him at this. He understood. He met needs, both physical and spiritual, and he did it perfectly. When I think about this woman in the story, I think what a tragedy if she'd never told anyone. What if she had never raised her hand? What if she had never gone to the people of God? What if she had never gone to her neighbors? We don't know what would have happened, but she did. And that question that Elisha asked her, I think he would ask us today. What do you have? What do you have? Do you feel like you're running out? What do you have? What are you willing to put into God's hands and see if he doesn't do something with it that transforms your life? Whether you're talking about material or spiritual. And I know it's so hard. When you are in that place where you feel powerless, where you feel powerless as a parent, or you feel powerless in your marriage, you feel powerless because of the bills, you feel powerless because you just feel the spiritual overwhelm and you don't really know what to do with it. Can I encourage you? Simply raise your hand. Simply say, I think I need some help. I think our family needs some help. And we're going to give you an opportunity to do that in just a moment. Pastor Corey's going to come up here before the service ends and tell you a way you can step into that, where you can just start that process with this simple decision to pray with some folks. We're going to pray with you and begin the process of seeing what does God do when you are running out. But some of you are on the other side of the equation. For whatever reason, right now, you're in a season where you have a lot of margin. You have finances, You have time. You have wisdom and insight. You have a spiritual richness and blessedness because of God, who God is and what Christ has done for you. And maybe your step is the same one. To pray and ask God, what do you want me to do with my margin? You've given me so much. Don't get this confused. This isn't a money thing. This isn't about, okay, well, I should give more money to the church. No. If God has put you in a position where you have margin and he's asking you to move forward with humility, do like this woman. Just take the next step. What is it? What is the next thing? Don't run so far ahead. Don't try to figure it all out. Just take the next step. Maybe it is giving some money. Maybe it is giving your time. Maybe it is sharing your expertise. Maybe it is spending time investing in other people's spiritual poverty by pointing them to Christ. I don't know. It could look a lot of different ways. But it goes back to the term we talked about last week. It's a simple decision to say, I'm going to live sent. Because of who Jesus is, because of what he's done, because he is sending me out. I'm going to live as his representative, humble and looking for opportunities to invest in other people. Let me pray for you. Father, there's so much in this story, and it runs in so many different directions. First and foremost, I want to thank you that I get to be part of a church that takes very seriously the fact that people are made in the image of God, and that you call us to step in when people feel powerless. And Jesus, I can't imagine the mood of the room when they started pouring the oil and they realized they were in the middle of a miracle. That you did what nobody expected, abundantly beyond more than we could ask or think. And Father, at the same time, I've been in the room when people struggling with spiritual poverty have found that Christ is abundantly more than they could ever ask or think or dream. Because that's what you do. You bring good news. So Father, this morning, as we worship you, as we encounter you, as we learn how to count on you, pray that you'd help us to move with humility. That you'd give us wisdom to see how we can join you in what you're doing. And Father, for those that are running out, would you give them the courage to simply raise their hand and say, I'm coming to the people of God, and I'm looking to God to bring me good news. Father, we love you. And as we worship you, I pray that you would continue to speak to us. It's in your name we pray. Amen. Let's stand together.